Hello citizens of humanity. This is an important message to you all and we ask that you listen to it in its entirety. It gives us the people control back to our lives. So please help share it to the masses and all stand together against this, for it is the key to our complete freedom. We are anonymous. And those who know that the government is merely a corporation that has not contracted with the people will know that the facade set up by said corporation will not be able to stand against jurisdictional challenges. All contracts require all parties to the contract to enter said contract knowingly and voluntarily. If, for example, getting a driver's license, because agents of the corporate government claimed through its public schools it is required and so getting one entered the recipient into a contract without his knowingly, then such a contract is void for the fraud perpetrated by the fraudulent claim that the human was required to have it and the lack of informing the human he was entering into any form of contract. Even if this fact wasn't true, which they lie to your face and say it isn't, they are all terminated anyways. Ready? I will explain the law to the lawmakers. After I need you to get your belongings and get out of our house. The oath taken by both houses of Congress reads, I do solemnly swear, or affirm, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter, so help me God. It is apparent that the section of the oath that seems almost daily violated by politicians is I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without reservation or purpose of evasion. The Congress as a whole along with the executive branch has been knowingly presenting legislation contrary to the Constitution and then relying on legal challenges to make it to Supreme Court for final disposition. That folks is still a violation of the oath taken no matter the lawyeristic maneuver of passing legislation as constitutional and waiting for a challenge. If these were your children you would immediately scold for exceeding limits by their hope of getting away with trouble but suffering consequences for only the most egregious just by sheer quantity. It's evasive both by Congress and by children. Both should be accountable. Federal law regulating oath of office by government officials is divided into 4 parts along with an executive order which further defines the law for purposes of enforcement. 5 U.S.C. 3331 provides the text of the actual oath of office members of Congress are required to take before assuming office. 5 U.S.C. 3333 requires members of Congress sign an affidavit that they have taken the oath of office required by 5 U.S.C. 3331 and have not or will not violate that oath of office during their tenure of office as defined by the third part of the law, 5 U.S.C. 7311, which explicitly makes it a federal criminal offense, and a violation of oath of office, for anyone employed in the United States government, including members of Congress, to advocate the overthrow of our constitutional form of government. The fourth federal law, 18 U.S.C. 1918, provides penalties for violation of oath of office described in 5 U.S.C. 7311, which include 1. Removal from office and 2. Confinement or a fine. The definition of advocate is further specified in Executive Order 10450, which for the purposes of enforcement supplements 5 U.S.C. 7311. One provision of Executive Order 10450 specifies it is a violation of 5 U.S.C. 7311 for any person taking the oath of office to advocate the alteration of the form of the government of the United States by unconstitutional means. Our form of government is defined by the Constitution of the United States. It can only be altered by constitutional amendment. Thus, according to Executive Order 10450, and therefore 5 U.S. 7311, any act taken by government officials who have taken the oath of office prescribed by 5 U.S.C. 3331 which alters the form of government other by amendment, is a criminal violation of the 5 U.S.C. 7311. The subject I am bringing to the table is why do the American people allow their representatives to break oath of office, a federal crime, and not hold them accountable? This should be a non-partisan subject simply due to the fact this has been going on for long decades and both parties are guilty according to the law. I have myself watched a slow and steady deterioration of personal freedom going on 40 years, and the accumulation is about to reach a tipping point where those hard-fought rights become meaningless. The scales could be tipped back somewhat if the public had awareness that the oath has teeth and voiced expectation that it be taken seriously. Long ago I read a case about a man who challenged the city within which he lived, claiming that the town and therefore the government did not have jurisdiction, because it was a corporation. One of the cases cited in his defense was Bank of United States versus Planters Bank of Georgia, 22 U.S. 9 Wheat. 904, 1824, in which was opined, as a member of a corporation, a government never exercises its sovereignty. It acts merely as a corporator, and exercises no other power in the management of the affairs of the corporation than are expressly given by the Incorporating Act. The government, by becoming a corporator, lays down its sovereignty so far as respects the transactions of the corporation, and exercises no power or privilege which is not derived from the charter. There is another discussion located at Team Law that discusses in great detail the fact that we no longer have a seated original jurisdiction government and how and when our federal government incorporated in 1871 to conduct business without restriction within its 10 square mile district. U.S. Constitution allows this at Article 1, Section 8 Clause 17, which gives the federal government exclusive jurisdiction over its territory. However, this clause creates some confusion, since the exclusive jurisdiction refers to the area from which Washington, D.C. was cut. Washington, D.C. was taken from the territories of Maryland and Virginia, and the Constitution for the United of America wanted to assure neither of these states had any authority over the new capital. It did not give the government of the United States jurisdiction over people without said people's consent, because people are sovereign. If we check on 28 U.S.C. 3002 Section 15, we see that the term United States refers to a federal corporation. A federal corporation is one that is formed in the federal territory rather than one of the states. This corporation was formed in Puerto Rico. This established a means by which the federal government could then fool we the people in the schools that it took control of in the 1800s with one of the wealthy elitist, Horace Mann, at point. It has even referred to the American people as enemies in the Trading with the Enemy Act. Since then, every state government across these United States of America has followed suit in an illegal effort to circumvent through deceit the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land in regards to government, and none of it can be circumvented through the passage of law. Not even the member nations to the United States of America can circumvent any restriction on government in their several constitutions. Two ways the state government chooses this tactic is to charge income and property taxes, neither of which is legal under both common law and constitutional law. I will have the case references linked here soon. Not only have all of the state governments set up private companies like the federal government, every municipality including counties, parishes, towns and cities have done the same. They form corporations to conduct the business of raising revenue. As such, they have no more legal force of authority over human beings than Home Depot and Walmart or any other private company. As such, there is no original legal jurisdiction government in place to uphold even constitutional law. When any human being is challenged, all the human being would have to do is challenge the jurisdiction of the government at whatever level the challenge arises as not having jurisdiction over human beings, since the government is merely a corporation and human beings have to voluntarily enter into contracts knowingly and voluntarily. That means that the human being has to have knowledge of every aspect of the contract by which he is expected to abide. If he does not know, for example, that getting a driver's license contracts him to pay a state income tax, then the contract was entered into knowingly and voluntarily. Since there is no government that has not incorporated, then no legal government entity within the United States of America can try any case against any human being. The only way that human beings could be tried for the commission of a crime is to be charged by another sovereign of equal status, another human being, who also knows common law and knows that other human being sovereigns would have to judge whether or not the human being did in fact trespass against another human being's equal rights. Since under common law, government employees cannot testify against the people, then it cannot charge the human. One of the reasons that the government always claims that the case is the people of the state of versus John Doe is because they are attempting to fool those who do not know any better that it is in fact humans that are bringing the charges. They do this knowing that most people do not know the law and do not know that government employees cannot testify. Prosecutors rely heavily on testimony from police and other government employees in many cases, ranging from drug arrests to income tax cases to driving under the influence to underage drinking. Since all of the states agreed to a Republican form of government, then every single human who is arrested for one of these crimes must consent to the law for which he is being charged a crime. That is one of the reasons that we so commonly hear politicians running for office calling our form of government a democracy. The corporation is a democracy, and a democratic form of government does not require the consent of the individual. That is, also, why it is so important to know where you live. Not knowing where you live can mean the difference in going to prison or losing your life and walking free. Of course, even if we did have an original jurisdiction government seated, any statute passed by the legislative body therein would still require the consent on each human being affected by the statute. This proved to be a huge problem for wealthy elitists. And it's time the rightful leaders we choose be in charge of our constitutional protection. Government is supposed to protect our rights, not take them. So, in order for there to be a peaceful resolution to this crisis, certain things need to happen. There must be reform of outdated and poorly envisioned legislation, written to be so broadly applied as to make a felony crime out of violation of terms of service, 10 years for a DDoS attack which shuts your websites down from basically refreshing the page over and over. But we devised a way to do this 100,000 times a second. Clever I say, but not worthy of being deemed terrorists. And that is only retaliation for you silencing us on the internet, which we told you not to do so. You knew the consequences, and I read you our terms and conditions, which is more than you did with yours and your hidden clauses. Not only that, you have invaded my home, my utopia. You did that by spying, turning on my phone or web cameras daily, taking screenshots of my son or his mother in private matters. So to these charges I say good luck. No 12 people in America would convict me, for you no longer have your false authority. You don't pick the jury anymore, and I will not be kidnapped to be taken. I know your fantasy courtrooms. So no more vast swathes of crimes, and allowing for selective punishment. There must be reform of mandatory minimum sentencing. There must be a return to proportionality of punishment with respect to actual harm caused, and consideration of motive and mens rea. The inalienable right to a presumption of innocence and the recourse to trial and possibility of exoneration must be returned to its sacred status, and not gambled away by pre-trial bargaining in the face of overwhelming sentences, unaffordable justice and disfavorable odds. Laws must be upheld unselectively, and not used as a weapon of government to make examples of those it deems threatening to its power. And all this will now be into almsters, as you no longer have the consent of the governed. Any action you take now against anyone not under your consent will be an act of war, and we all know that you cannot win that. It will end just the same as the last time Obama's almost grandfather Hitler tried this nonsense. You. All of you. Cowards. In your fucking hole like the serpent you are. Scared and taking the coward way in taking your own pathetic useless life. Good riddance for good reason. The statue of Lady Justice is blindfolded. No more should her innocence be besmirked, her scales tipped, nor her sword hand guided. Furthermore, there must be a solemn commitment to freedom of the internet, this last great common space of humanity, and to the common ownership of information to further the common good. We make this statement: do not expect to be negotiated with, we do not desire to be negotiated with. We understand that due to the actions we take we exclude ourselves from the system within which solutions are found. There are others who serve that purpose, people far more respectable than us, people whose voices emerge from the light, and not the shadows. These voices are already making clear the reforms that have been necessary for some time, and are outright required now. It is these people that the justice system, the government, and law enforcement must engage with. Their voices are already ringing strong with a chorus of determined resolution. We demand only that this chorus is not ignored. We demand the government does not make the mistake of hoping that time will dampen its ringing, that they can ride out this wave of determination, that business as usual can continue after a sufficient period of lip service and back-patting. Not this time. This time there will be change, or there will be chaos.
The flames, you're the face of the future, the blood in my veins, oh ooh, the blood in my veins, oh ooh. But they never did, ever lived, ebbing and flowing, inhibited, limited, till it broke up when it rained down. It rained